Hello and welcome to the Rest is Football with Alan Shearer, Micah Richards and me, Gary Lineker. Micah, you've got your clothes back on after the end of the last episode. Are they going to stay on for the entirety of this episode?
Yes, they are. It's too cold outside.
More importantly, have you got your bra on underneath that top?
Now, Alan. There's no need for that. I am actually kind of sick of the sight of you two this week. We actually filmed and recorded 10 episodes of the Match of the Day Top 10 podcasts, and we did it over 2 days. So we've been together a lot. We're separate today, but I can still see you.
And we're together on Sunday.
Oh, my word.
Yeah, for Newport versus Manchester United in the FA Cup. Yeah, bit of BBC One. We're kind of busy. Yeah. I might need a restraining order at some point.
Before you move on, what about the splendid lunch that you cooked us on 2 occasions?
Yeah.
One on Tuesday and one on Wednesday. Oh, no, was it Monday and Tuesday? I'm getting my
Monday
days.
and Tuesday, time flies.
It flies, doesn't it?
Very nice. Very, very nice.
Well, that's very kind of you to say that. Very kind.
Marvellous. Absolutely outstanding, Gary.
Thank you very much. High praise. Right, on today's episode, we're going to be diving into the January transfer window. And it's not been a lot of action, but there are a few things to discuss. We'll recap both the Carabao Cup Semi-Finals, and we'll also have a look what's been going on in the Africa Cup of Nations and the Asia Cup. Some of the scenes are extraordinary. One group in particular in the Africa Cup of Nations. We'll come to that in the second half. But I want to start with the 2 semi-finals. Let's start. We're recording this on Thursday. Let's start with the game that was played at Fulham last night, and Liverpool got themselves through to the final. Well, they meet Chelsea. Fulham had 1 or 2 opportunities, didn't they?
They did. They had a huge opportunity at, the game 0-0. I think it was Paulinho missed a big chance from a set piece, and then almost, 3 or 4 minutes later, Liverpool go up the other end and score, and you just thought, when you...
Yeah, goalkeeping error, wasn't it?
He should have saved it, yeah. But you just thought, when you get big chances like that in that side of the game, then they have to be put in the back of the net. And I know they rallied late on Fulham, and they give it a right good go. But I mean, Liverpool with their injuries and players away and everything else, that you've got to admire how they just keep on getting the job done.
Yeah, Luis Diaz with the all-important goal. I know it was a Leno error, but it was still a good bit of play. He's probably been Liverpool's quietest forward this season. I mean, he's had a lot going on, hasn't he? Injury problems and on the personal issues with the family when they were kidnapped in Colombia. So it's sort of understanding that he's struggled to find his best form, because he looked electric last season. So that goal would probably do him a lot of good. And Liverpool are marching on, aren't they, in all competitions?
I mean, we've talked about him so much now, haven't we? I think we've give Klopp all the credit in terms of not just the starting 11, his in-game substitutions have been brilliant. We've talked about how good their forward line is, probably the best in the league as a collective. Yeah. And, they're mixing that with young players as well. Again, I thought Bradley was very good until they conceded the goal. When he just come inside him, he looks like a real talent, and he's fullback for Liverpool, if anyone's not seen him already. And Joe Gomez looks steady, doesn't he? He sort of had that big injury and he was linked away, and then he's a centre-half, but we're playing left-back because Robertson's been out, and so has Tsimikas, and he just looks like he's gradually getting back to the Gomez we all know.
It's great to see that, actually, isn't it? Because he kind of, a bit like you, Micah, burst onto the scene, didn't he? We all thought, wow, what a player. Signed him from Charlton, didn't they, if I remember correctly? And he's played some. He was early days. He was brilliant. Then big injuries can really affect you, and he certainly had 1 or 2 of those.
I think the big improvement for me is that I always felt there was a huge error in him. But certainly in recent games, he's been outstanding, and he was again last night in that game. I thought everything he did, he was reliable. I thought his pace was able to get Liverpool out of trouble at times, and he defended really, really well. So yeah, he was impressive again last night.
Yeah, given his versatility, Micah, I mean, looking ahead to the Euros, obviously if he sustains this kind of form for the rest of the season, it could be a really good and valuable addition to Gareth Southgate's England squad, couldn't he? Because he can play any of the positions probably across the back four.
Yeah, it's a very good point. The only thing he's not so good at is scoring. I believe he's not scored in his Liverpool career, which I seen a stat yesterday. Yeah. I actually couldn't believe it. But in terms of his ability, yes, I totally agree with you. And he's got experience as well. Just because he had that knock of injury doesn't mean he's not a good player. And look, he had Konate and Matip to contend with. Robertson, who we all agree is probably the best left back in the league, so it's always going to be tough for him. But his versatility, we mentioned the likes of Phil Neville. Sometimes it's gone against him because he was better than probably people give him credit for. But I think this could actually work in Joe Gomez's favour.
We're going to get a Liverpool versus Chelsea final. They had no problems whatsoever disposing of Middlesbrough despite trailing after the first leg, Alan. Yeah. You can see signs that generally over the period of the season that Chelsea are gradually getting it together, would you say?
Yeah, slowly. Still got to do a little bit more to convince me, I think. Still need to improve, but they're on the right path. They're getting a bit more belief. 1 or 2 injuries coming back. I mean, as much as they were under pressure before the game the other night because of their performance in the first leg and the result in the first leg, so they were under pressure, but the way they just they went after Middlesbrough, and Middlesbrough just couldn't handle it, and they were far too good for them, and it was all over in that first half. And job well done for Chelsea. And I mean, if they were able to get a trophy this season and finish in and around 6th, 7th, 8th, then you have to say that would be a really good season for Pochettino, considering all the criticism that they've had early season.
That's actually where you were going to lead me, actually, to whether that would be considered a successful season. Say if they just won the Carabao Cup, maybe qualified for one of the European competitions, that would be a step in the right direction, Michael, wouldn't it?
Yeah, of course. I agree with that. I'm quite confused with Chelsea because I remember saying early doors, I seen all the patterns of play, I seen what they was trying to do. It looked to me like they had a clear plan, but they just couldn't get it across on the field. And I wanted to ask you guys as strikers, we've done Chelsea so many times this season, and all the approach play has been excellent. It's just that final bit. Now are we starting to see the final bit? Yes, Broja is still young. He might not be the final piece right now. But if they had a proper striker, all these games that they were in, a striker scores that. I think we're talking about something different. Of course, he said, well, we haven't. But I'm saying it's as easy as when Alan said, okay, if Man City get Haaland, they'll win absolutely everything. I think if Chelsea were to get that proper top striker, we're looking at a top 4, top 5, top 6 proper contender for me.
Well, you should be with the amount of money they spent. I suppose it would depend as well, because if they went into the market, probably it doesn't look like there's not that much going on in the window. And I want to come to this question later, but about where Victor Osimhen might go. And he would be the sort of player that probably Chelsea, Arsenal, maybe Manchester United, the big 3 clubs. But we'll come to that conversation later. But they are missing. That's the one thing that's missing, isn't it, Alan, mainly at the moment, a 9? Because they do get the ball in the box a lot. I mean, Cole Palmer is stepping up, but he's more of a kind of 10. But he can play in a variety of different positions. And I loved his 2 finishes again. He strokes it in, doesn't he? He's
for someone so young and inexperienced. What about his celebration, though, lads? Come on!
I saw a still photo of the Middlesbrough fan when they scored their goal. They've been they were 6-0 down and they
Yeah.
scored the goal, and there was a fan in the crowd giving it exactly the same celebration. A Middlesbrough fan. And I thought, well, fair play to you, mate.
No, that
was
Chelsea missing, without doubt, missing a. So, I mean, it's hard to believe, isn't it? You spend that much money and you haven't got a bloody centre forward. I mean,
well, they bought Jackson, didn't they? But he looks like he's got a bit to do in terms of his development at the moment.
he's not ready to be a regular for a club that want to get into the Champions League and win everything. He may come good, but he's not ready to be a regular. No.
I just want to ask you something, Alan, because you were getting a bit irritated, as you do sometimes with teams playing out from the back and conceding goals. You've been exasperated at times with Burnley this season, and the same thing happened, didn't it, to Middlesbrough on a few occasions? And you were straight on the group chat. Here they go again. They're all.
Should we blame Pep for this? Is this Pep's fault?
No, but it's a great part of our game now. It makes it more exciting. I think there's more goals.
Well, I enjoy it when you're half decent at it. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I just can't. I get that everyone wants to play out from the back, and that's the in thing. And as a coach, when you're going in for a job, you got to tell the chief executive or the owner or whoever it may be that this is the way you're going to play. But I mean, I watched Middlesbrough the other night, and I've watched Burnley for all of this season, and it makes me so angry when they're trying to do it and they're not very good at it. They keep on getting caught and giving chances and giving goals away. And when is the point where you say, maybe this is not working? We may just have to change tonight.
Do you not think, though, if Michael Carrick's got a way of playing, right? That's what he wants to do. A lot of the upcoming coaches, they're really good players themselves. That's what they want to do. They want to play out from the back. And in the Championship, you could probably get away with that, because if you do give it away, you're not going to have like the top quality level of forward that's going to punish you like you get against Premier League opposition. But my question is, when you're suddenly playing at Chelsea and you've been playing in a certain way for the whole season, and you've got a philosophy of how you want the game to be played, and then you play at a team that you probably know will press you higher, they'll be more electric, and they'll punish you if they get the opportunities. Do you suddenly change your whole ethos of playing for 90 minutes?
No, but you suddenly should think, hang on, we're going in against top opposition here who are really good at what they do. So, not on every occasion do we have to play out. We can change it now and again. You don't have to do it every single time when quite clearly you're being punished, you've conceded goals, you've conceded chances. There must be a time where you think in your head, hang on, let's just do something different on this occasion. I'm not saying kick it long every time you get a goal kick, but just don't do the same thing every time when you're clearly getting caught and getting punished. No, is that me thinking stupidly or what?
No, you're right, Al. I think every coach, especially, they always have a plan B as well. So I agree with Alan. You come up with different opposition. So when I watched Middlesbrough in the Cup, we did the first game.
Was it Villa you did?
League Cup. They did the League Cup and we did the FA Cup.
Yeah.
And they had a system where they would let them have the ball wide and create as much chaos in the middle of the park, and said, okay, you can have it, we're going to cross it, and we're going to defend the middle of the pitch. And I watched them the week before that, 2 weeks before that, and it was a completely different tactic. So I agree with Alan. And it's down to, one, the manager, and Carrick's been brilliant in able to adapt to what he needs to do. So I give him praise last week. I thought it was outstanding the way they played against Chelsea in that first leg. But it's down to the goalkeeper as well. So when the goalkeeper has the ball, the manager will say to you in training, only play out when we are set. And what that means is when everyone's in the right position. Okay, there's going to be times in the games where it's not going the way you want it, and you've got to take a little bit more of a risk. But if it's not on, you don't play out. It's as simple as that. So I do agree with Alan on that. But that's down to the players in the moment taking responsibility. And when it happens once and you get punished, you don't do it the second and the third and the fourth time. Of course not.
Therefore, Alan, you're not thinking stupidly, which, is the first time for everything. So well done.
That's a fair point.
Yeah. Be a good final.
Yeah, it'd be a great final, yeah. Two huge teams that are used to success. Okay, Chelsea not so much in the last couple of years. But two big football clubs, yeah, and it'll be a great final.
I think what's really interesting about the League Cup, you had Birmingham, and in 2013 was Swansea, and they wasn't competing in the top flight, so people are taking it really seriously now.
Or is it because their squad or their backup players are just that good and miles better than so many other teams?
I just think with Pep always took it seriously, didn't he? He said...
Well, to be honest, Micah, though, you could look at... Any time Pep puts a side out, because you look at their squad of, 22, 23 players, whatever, whichever 10, 11 players he puts out there, you'd go, oh, he's gone with a really strong team. And then you go, well, actually, they're all good, aren't they? Yeah. So much depth,
Certainly the teams in Champions League, it's certainly in the earlier rounds for them, it's a competition that they always put their squad players out or their younger players in to give them a game. Now that might have changed over the years when they get to semi-final or a final, but it's without a doubt a competition that so many teams rotate and give squad players a game.
I absolutely agree. I want to move on to the January transfer window. It's not been that much action. I wonder whether that's because perhaps of what's going on with the rules and the problems that Nottingham Forest and obviously very much Everton have had. They're all being a little bit cautious. I mean, the January window is never like the summer window, is it?
But there's, more often than not, guys, there's always been a fair few quid. I mean, ridiculous amounts spent sometimes in January. But, I mean, up to now, and I don't expect it to change that much at all over the last few days of the window. That I think it's sort of hit home with what's happened to Everton and Nottingham Forest being charged. I think it's hit home, and other clubs are really looking at and having to sit tight.
Well, your own club is in that kind of situation, haven't they? It's looking like the Miguel Almiron will probably go to Saudi, and that asks a few questions as well. It's obviously not one of the same clubs that owned by Newcastle, but who knows what's actually the reasoning behind that. But they need to need to sell to buy. We've talked about this before. There was rumours about Trippier, but the club have actually said, I think now, that he's not for sale. But then who knows? Yeah,
you never know. I mean, that's the situation that Newcastle are in, and perhaps others are in as well, who want to try and go to the next level. I mean, we've already said before, haven't we, that the rules basically stop you doing that, basically stop you challenging the elite. I mean, the finances and the numbers, I'm sure that will be changed this summer, because to me they're outdated and in some occasions not really right. So, Newcastle have been linked with selling one or two, which is the way they're going to have to go. I think one or two will be sold, whether that's this window or certainly in the summer, for them to try and go to the next level and try and catch the elite somehow.
I think the most standout signing probably so far in the window, and I know it's only a loan to West Ham, but that's Calvin Phillips, because he's had a tough time, hasn't he, Micah, at Manchester City? It's not really happened for him. He's not had a look in, to be honest. He's not had a run of games at any point, I don't think. Obviously, Rodri plays in that position for Manchester City, and he's probably the best at it in world football. at present. So it's a good chance to him because he needs to play from football, particularly with the Euros coming up. Obviously, Gareth really likes him. I mean, he's stuck by him through thick and thin, even when he's not been playing. He's been fiercely loyal towards Calvin Phillips. So this is an opportunity for him, and I think a great addition for West Ham, probably, if he can find that form that he showed, regularly, not just for Leeds, but also for his country.
Yeah, and I often say I feel sorry for players, but I actually genuinely feel sorry for him because when he was getting like he was going to get a run of games, he got a bad injury. I think it was his shoulder. Then he come back and getting into the flow of things. Then he gets another injury. He's got Rodri, who's the best defensive midfielder in world football, who rarely misses a game ever. And when he played, we all been there, and we can all say this as footballers, you're playing within yourself. So when I say playing within yourself, it means you're just doing
cautiously
the bare minimum, and you just want to go in the game without making a mistake, just keeping it simple. What's going through your head is you're thinking, okay, is my injury okay? So you don't push yourself to the absolute limits. And I thought it'd be an outstanding signing for Man City, not just because he can play centre half, but he slipped into that centre back role at Leeds, and sometimes the way they played out from the back, and he was so good on the ball, and his passing is excellent.
Why do you think it's not worked out for him at Manchester City? Because even, to be honest, even on the times that Rodri's been out, we had the suspect, he's never really been a gone to. And actually, even Pep said himself, I feel sorry for him. It's just I've wanted to get, but every time I have to make a decision, and I've not felt.
Didn't Pep call him out in the media once as well for being overweight as well? What did he?
Yeah, but I think that was taken a little bit out of context in terms of like they all get weighed in a morning, and they might come through pre-season, and your required weight might be X, and he might have been a little bit over that. So when he said that, it just means he's not at the prime condition to play for me right now. Yeah. And he did the exact same with Yaya Toure as well, a couple of seasons ago. And then everyone was saying on social media, he's overweight, he's fat, he's not taking it seriously. It wasn't that, it was just taken out of context a little bit. But yes, everyone started jumping in after that, Alan. Yeah.
I think he had to get out and had to get out and play. It doesn't matter where, he just had to get out and play because you just can't sit around for that long waiting, hoping, because it may never happen. It was probably never going to happen at Man City for him. So is it a bit of a gamble on West Ham's part if you believe the figures that were banded around in terms of a loan fee, his salary, plus with an obligation to buy at the end of the season for someone that hasn't played hasn't played any football really in the last 6, 7, 8, 9 months?
I think there'll always be question marks, won't they? I think sometimes when you've been out that long, it's can he get back to that level? I believe he can. I don't think it's too much of a risk because he's still a good age and he's hungry and he's been fit all this time, So I've not quite seen the actual figures, what that would be. But, a couple of seasons ago, everyone wanted him. I believe in his ability. He just needs to play. Starts for England in centre mid, I agree with you, Al. He'll show everyone exactly what he can do. And the last point on that is it's very difficult sometimes when you've been earning a lot of money at one club and Man City are not going to sell to the competitor at that time. So he's got to go maybe down the leagues to get the football he wants and needs at this precise moment. So you either stay at Man City and play a bit part and potentially win a trophy, or go somewhere where you're going to be the number one, and like West Ham, winning European trophies. So I see it as a good fit, but really, in my mind, he's a top 4 player when he's fully fit.
Let's hope it goes well for him because it's obviously because everyone wants to play, and it's great that he's made the decision that he wants to play football, and I suspect he'll do a really good job for West Ham. I want it, like Victor Osimhen, I mentioned him earlier. He's kind of come out, hasn't he, on I think it was Instagram or something, or social media anyway, and he said, I already know what I want to do with my career. I already know my next step, my next destination. I think 60% of the people mentioned the rumours about me being linked with the Premier League. The Premier League is one of the biggest leagues in the world. So he's intimating that he's coming to the Premier League in the summer. I think he's got in his contract now a buyout for about 120 million, I think, which is a lot of money. But I mean, he's some player. I remember couple of seasons ago when Leicester played in the Europa League, and we went to the King Power with my boys, and it was he was unbelievably good against Leicester. He was such a handful, brilliant in the air, incredibly quick. His movement was very intelligent, and he's going to be a great signing for someone. Which English club, A, do you think need him, and B, who will get him?
Do we think he's going to suit a red and white shirt or a black and white shirt?
Oh, you think Newcastle in the equation, do you? Can you? But that's the thing I'm saying here with the the rules of signing players and the amount you can spend. How can a club like Newcastle spend 120 million on one player?
Yeah, that's the problem they're going to have, and that's why they'll have to sell to invest again, depending how much they bring in. With selling players maybe this January or even in the summer.
And therefore, Alan, if they're selling players, that's not going to be a great motivation for Osimhen to come, is it? For someone like that as well?
Yeah, that's the problem. That's yeah.
Probably won't be in the Champions League.
Yeah, well, Newcastle won't be in the Champions League next season because it's highly unlikely they're going to finish in the top 4 or 5. So, yeah, that also makes it really, really difficult. I agree with you.
Yeah. What do you think, really? Realistically, probably Manchester United,
Arsenal,
Chelsea or Arsenal. They all need a number 9, don't they? I mean, obviously, yeah, United have got a young up-and-coming player playing in that position, but all 3 of those clubs need the top quality centre-forward, don't they?
Well, you two are strikers. Everybody's wanted it at one stage. You had an opportunity to go Chelsea, Man U or Arsenal in the summer. Where are you going?
Me, I think I'd look at it and I'd go at the moment.
At this moment
Arsenal.
in time, yeah.
If they all offer, obviously we're talking about everyone offers the same thing. That's what you want, blah blah blah, and your contract. That doesn't, that's because I mean, to be honest, they earn so much now that you can just choose where you want.
You'll
to
get
go.
that, yeah.
I would say Arsenal are probably a centre forward away from winning things. Mm-hmm. Chelsea are a centre forward away from becoming competitive again. And Manchester United are a centre forward away from improving. But they've still got a long way to go. If I were him, you want to go somewhere where you think you're going to win things. Now, whether Arsenal have also had the thing, haven't they, about the financial plans and stuff, and been stymied a little bit in this window. They've said that kind of they can't do anything at the moment. Whether they can do in the summer and that amount of money, we'll have to wait and see, I guess. But it'd be a brilliant signing for all 3 of them. I think he's a wonderful.
Me too. Yeah, couldn't agree more with everything you said there. I think that sort of summed it up perfectly. He's a top player and he will score goals, and there will be massive clubs after him for that reason.
Where do you think he's going, Micah?
Something in my mind says Chelsea. I don't know why, but I think Chelsea. Because they're the most desperate for a striker. I think Arsenal would love to have him, but they still see Jesus as a number 9, and they've got Nketiah, where I think Chelsea will do.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just think Chelsea will get him.
Okay, we'll find out in due course. Let's take a breather, and when we come back, let's talk about what's been going on in other parts of the world of football. Micah, before we get on to discussing the AFCON, I can't. Where is that? The old trophy, the chocolate thing behind you that we talked about the other day. Yes. Someone asked the question because you're back at home now.
2 seconds there.
I'm sure people certainly watching on the YouTube channel want to see. Here it is.
Can you see that? Can you read that?
Oh my goodness! Never mind your Premier League title. That's the important.
But that's not
thing.
the good. That's not the best bit.
What's the best bit?
Ooh, here we go.
What's that say? It's back to front on here.
Read it out.
Is it? Find a legend with a legend. Unwrap Micah Richards' shirt in a pack to join him for a VIP experience. Well, hold on. That's not it. That's not it. No.
I think a night out would be
Have
enough.
have you not eaten it?
Have you? Yeah. On a bar of chocolate.
You've always wanted to eat yourself.
Yeah. Can I say at this point, other chocolate bars are available?
Not if you want a sponsor of Cadburys.
Who was the VIP experience with?
No one turned up.
Let's talk about the Africa Cup of Nations, because I don't know whether you've been watching it, but it's been absolutely nuts. Particularly the group that involved Egypt, Cape Verde, Ghana and Mozambique. And it was just extraordinary. At different times, everyone thought they were going through. Ghana were 2-up against Mozambique, needing to win their particular game to guarantee they got through. And then conceded 2 goals pretty much in injury time. The first one was a very soft penalty, a handball where he's so close to him and his arm was slightly away from his side. It was, that ridiculous handball laws. And then the second goal, which was ultimately the one that did for them, was that there was a ball came in and it was going well wide and the keeper was going towards it and he stuck his hand out and then thought, no, actually I should leave it, which he should have done. And it flicked his hand and then went over. And from the corner, Cape Verde scored. They ended up winning the group. Of all the teams to win the group, that was remarkable because, Cape Verde, if you know, is just, what is it, a tiny little island. It's got just over 500,000 population. It's just off the coast of Senegal. So an amazing story for them. But also the roller coaster of what happened with Egypt as well, because... they thought they needed to win. It was 1-1. It was getting right near the end of the game. Yeah. Then they scored. So they thought they won. They're all going mad. They cut to celebrations of Mo Salah on the bench because obviously he's been injured. All big celebrations. And then somehow Cape Verde get a goal in the last seconds of the game. All the Egypt players are down on their knees. They think it's all over. And then because of what happened in the other game, that Mozambique came back to score 2 goals in basically in injury time, that meant that Egypt still went through. So both Cape Verde and Egypt went through. Ghana, managed, of course, by former Newcastle boss Alan Chris Hughton, a man I know from my Tottenham days. Lovely guy. I felt sick for him. And they didn't quite make it. And
he's lost his job.
I know it's costed him his job. Yeah, he was fired after it. And I remember at the end of the game, all the journalists, the Ghana players wanted to just get out of there, and then there was they were stopping all the journalists, getting to them with the police, and the journalists shouting, "All we want to do is ask questions." And and there was an interview with Kudus at the end of the game from West Ham will be now coming back to West Ham, so mixed emotions for West Ham fans. But he's pretty much the player of the group stage, and he's been brilliant. And he was.
I saw the interview, and they kept asking the questions, and he took like 10 or 15 seconds, didn't he, to keep answering it, to thinking. You could just see the disappointment and anger and everything etched on his face, and he wasn't quite sure how to get out what he wanted to say. And it was a really painful interview for him, wasn't it?
It best be especially painful for the keeper. That moment of, it was just like a little bit of a panic, wasn't it? Just shoved his arm out, and then he tried to get it away quick, and it was
a bit of spin on the ball, though, wasn't there? Yeah. So he was sort of in 2 minds. Shall he go? Shall he
tried to say, no, I didn't touch it as well, didn't he? When clearly he did, didn't he? Yeah. His arms went up to say, no, I never touched it, but he did.
I know. Yeah. Oh, he did. He definitely did. It was quite extraordinary. There's been some great stuff elsewhere. Mauritania won their first game in the in the AFCON against twice winners Algeria. They went out. They came bottom in their group. Manchester United keeper Nana was dropped for Cameroon's last game against Gambia. Cameroon scored 2 goals in the last 5 minutes as well to qualify, I think, second in the group. That was another crazy game. The Ivory Coast lost 4-0 at home to Equatorial Guinea, a game I watched quite a lot of, and they had so many chances. I mean, 4-0 was a kind of slightly absurd result in that game. But in the end, they went through in 3rd place because what happened in the Ghana game meant that they had a better third. So the whole thing was, it was so complex at one point. But it's been really entertaining because the Africa Cup of Nations 2 years ago was kind of a little bit drab in terms of the actual games, but the excitement in this one has been immense.
Absolutely brilliant. I've loved it. I've loved watching it. The only thing I don't understand is, like players going from the Premier League, how come Onana was allowed to leave so late? I seen players going at different times, and then it's just madness. Surely there should be a cut-off point when he can go so he can prepare, and then he's being dropped. The whole thing is just chaos.
Maybe that's one of the reasons why. I don't know. I can't say that for sure. But but then you look at it on the other way. After what happened to Ghana, Iñaki Williams went back to play in the Copa del Rey against Barcelona pretty much on the same day that he landed. Well, it was exactly the same day as he landed. It went to extra time, and then he scored a goal, and then his brother Nico Williams scored a goal, not the one that was at Liverpool and Forest, a different Nico Williams, his brother. And Bilbao beat Barcelona. I mean, what a mad 24 hours he had. He's talk about going from absolutely distraught to absolutely enthralled and thrilled.
That is commitment, Just
isn't
a bit.
It?
Oh.
Isn't it? Yeah, it just shows you footballers do generally want to play.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Let's move on to the Asia Cup, and that's been quite remarkable as well, because mainly because Japan have lost to Iraq, and that meant that Iraq actually won the group, and Japan, who've struggled, and it was mad because they had 10 straight wins going into it, including, of course, that 4-1 win over Germany. Didn't they? So what happens now that, in fact, it's coming to an end, the game that South Korea are playing, which, if they win the group, they will play Japan in the last 16. Now, obviously, those two sides are the favourite for the tournament.
So wait, hold on. Son's just scored a pen.
3-2. That's right. Son's just. I know. No, they have. That's exactly the thing. So South Korea have just scored. Which means I think we're in the 103rd minute at the moment, so it's not quite finished. But before the end of the podcast, we'll let you know. But it'll be old news by the time the podcast comes out. But nevertheless, South Korea against Japan in the last 16, obviously the two favourites to win that tournament. And that will also mean, of course, if one of them goes out, which obviously they will if they meet each other, either Son and Hwang, who played for South Korea, or Matoma and Endo will be coming back to the Premier League earlier than they would have thought. Now, I suspect fans of Tottenham, Wolves, Brighton and Liverpool will all...
Forget that! You fantasy football fans! we need them back ASAP!
Oh, really? Oh, well, that's the most important thing here. Nothing to do... Yeah, who cares about the Asia Cup or getting your players back to play in your team that you support? It's all about the fantasy.
Isn't it mad, though? We've got the Asian Cup, we've got African Cup of Nations, we've got the Carabao Cup, we've got the Premier League, we've got the FA Cup coming up at the weekend.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's great. There's never any shortage of football. That's for sure.
It's free all gas!
You're kidding.
Hold on, it's come through. It's coming through live. I've got the live feed up. It's free all.
Breaking news here, but by the time you hear it, it won't be breaking news. But
Morales! Ramirez!
Now, hang on. This is just me thinking off-piste here a little bit. And also, I think South Korea would have to be very sure of what was going on in the other games. But, do you want to play Japan?
Don't even go there, Gary.
In an equaliser in the 104th minute, and therefore avoiding Japan and all Tottenham, Wolves, Manchester. So all the fans of Tottenham, Wolves, Liverpool and Brighton will be going, oh no, they're both going to go through to the next round. So
incredible
stuff. I just want to move on to a little news story at UEFA because Chief of Football at UEFA, Zvonimir Boban, or Zvoni as he's known to his friends, and I have to say he's a good friend of mine, has resigned from his role at UEFA, and that's because Chefrin, who came in, and in 2017 he brought in a mandatory thing that says you can't serve more than 3 terms, and it was one of the reasons that he probably got that job in the first place. Isn't often the case in these things. People get settled in this kind of high-profile job, and who knows what's happened. And now he's kind of trying to reverse that statute so that he can serve beyond. And I know Boban took umbrage to that, and he thinks it's the wrong thing to do. And I must say, I know Boban very well, and he's a man that lives and breathes and loves football, and he wants the right thing for football. And he's also, and you can see from this that he's a man of principle and a man of integrity. And it's such a shame to lose him from somewhere like that, because to actually get former players that genuinely have the best interests of the game at heart, to have them in top roles in those jobs is something that, you know, it's such a shame that he's felt he's had to do this, but I do admire his integrity.
Yeah, it's a shame because, and Gary, if you remember, he was dead against the handball law. He spoke out so many times and tried to give as much clarity and say how much he was against it and how common sense needed to come back in, particularly on that law. So, yeah, that's a shame he's done that, because I just think he spoke football sense, if you know what I mean.
Say you get somebody in there who everyone really likes. I mean, what is it? 12 years somewhere is a long time anyway. You know, let's be honest. Yeah. You should always give someone another opportunity. But if you get someone who's really good at the job and doing really great for the game, would you be happy for them to stay? Or is it just the fact that...
I just think I think the problem is if you get stuck in a role for so long, it becomes about you, not the role. And I think that's a really important distinction. And changing the rules yourself to enable yourself to carry on. I mean, that's a lack of, I think, self-awareness at best. A lack of self-awareness at best, I would say. Right, we're going to finish this particular episode with a best leagues in world football, and there's been an analytics firm called 21st Group that crunched the numbers, and they've ranked all the world's professional football leagues from the best and most competitive to the worst. I think they assessed something like 7,000 teams around the world by on-field results, league tables, underlying performance, and then consider international competitions like each confederation's Champions League and the Club World Cup to assess the relative quality of different leagues. So, for example, although Burnley haven't played Werder Bremen this season, it can be assessed how they rank based on teams they've played. So Burnley have played Manchester City, City have played Leipzig, who have played Bremen, and so on. You understand where I'm coming from. So my question to you both, a couple of ones. Who do you think's the top league?
Premier League.
Obvious, of course.
Yeah,
Premier
that comes
League.
out top. Where, for example, would you think the Saudi Pro League ranks?
Ooh. How many is there?
They've ranked the top 100, Alan. So for context, just to give you a guide, League One, that's the English League One, ranks 52nd. League Two ranks 95th. And obviously there's a lot of talk about the Saudi Pro League, how good is it, etc. But at the minute, where do you think they are?
75 to 80.
No, well, 63rd. So they rank lower than League One.
Wow.
Yeah. So
is there enough data on that though, with all the new players going there?
Well, I think it's early days, and the league there is now attracting those top players. So I imagine it will kind of march up that leaderboard. But I think it's, I think it's quite interesting.
What if they got the top 5? So Premier League 1?
Right, I've got the list in front of me. Give me the top 10. Gives you best guess. We've already said the Premier League's number 1, which is hardly surprising. 2?
La Liga.
Correct. 3?
Go on.
Bundesliga.
Yes, sir. 4?
France.
It's going to be
No.
Italy.
Yes.
Yes,
Italy.
yeah.
And
France,
then
okay.
France, Alan, which is not surprising that those 5 are the top 5 leagues. And interesting, though, didn't Ronaldo say that the Saudi league was already better than Liga? Not quite sure about that. And then where do we go? Any of you get this, you get... In fact, we'll give Micah an extra bar of chocolate and you'll get sent one
Dutch.
as well. No.
Portugal.
Nah.
Ah!
You need to go much further afield.
Like, how are we talking South America? Mm-hmm. Brazil.
Brazil!
They've got all the stars there, haven't they?
Yeah, they've got some great players. Serie A, as it called
Right.
over there. Same as Italy. Then where?
I mean,
Then it's the Dutch.
I don't think you get this in a month of Sundays, so I'm going to just tell you. It is Spanish Segunda División, second division in
Wow.
Spain,
wow.
which is ahead of the Championship in England, which is ranked 16th. So would that surprise you? Maybe because all the the technical abilities of the
That surprises
Spanish football.
me.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think you said Portugal before. That's their next, the Primeira Liga in Portugal, and then where?
It's got to be one of like Turkey. You think of Champions League, Turkey,
Not
Russia.
far off, Micah. You've got it there, Russia. Very good. Oh, very good, Micah. And actually you got the next one as well. You went Russia, Turkey, and that's exactly who are 9 and 10. Eredivisie 11.
Mike is not as daft as he looks, you know.
It's not as daft as
I thought that might be quite interesting. And if you want to see the full list of how all the different leagues stack up against each other and find out more about the methodology of how it's worked out, it's all in today's newsletter. Sign up for that at therestisfootball.com. That's therestisfootball.com. And remember, it's completely free. Well, that's it for today. Other than to tell you, it did indeed finish 3-3. Which you'll know by the time this goes out anyway. And South Korea will not play Japan. So that was, all in all, a bit of a kind of damp squib in the end. But there we go. That's it from us. Thank you for listening. Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me. Have a good weekend.